I'm curious about the drama
Yes.
that you were wanting to bring up before we
So,
talk about some of the other racing we watched.
so the first thing I was gonna bring up is, and that this happened um, after the China Grand Prix. The Mercedes came under the spotlight after the Chinese Grand Prix for strange behavior of its front wings active
Oh, yes.
aerodynamics, footage of Antonelli's car. So essentially, when they are activating the aero in the front, where it goes into like X or C mode or whatever, it's allowed to take 4/10, right, to do that switch. And for this behavior, and Antonelli's took longer, right? So which helped him, which can help with like braking and stuff like that. So here's right. This let me read it for you here. This behavior appeared to go against the rules, which imposes a minimum time of transition between wing states. F1 technical regulations stipulate that the transition between the two modes of the front and rearing can be no longer than 4/10. Despite theories and stuff like that this was a trick and stuff like that, it was deemed as a miscalculation of the hydraulics, and apparently it didn't really give an advantage. The way the team apparently got its calculations wrong. It doesn't help that I'm finding this information also in the Scuderia Ferrari subreddit.
Fair.
But in my thought process, and people are like, it doesn't matter. Your job is to calculate it right.
Yes.
Because the thing about it is, when like last year the Ferraris got disqualified for the plank wear,
Yes.
or you get disqualified for being underweight,
Yes.
or I think what is it when Lewis got disqualified for having like 2 or 4 millimeters a screw sticking out, you know, like he didn't gain a feasible advantage for that screw sticking out, right? But he still got disqualified, right? And it's like, you doing a miscalculation, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because everyone else calculated right and you didn't.
Yeah.
And this already doesn't help that you have this team that clearly has an engine where things are not all chummy, right? But the FIA is currently like, don't know what to do, because if they're banning that thing, then all of a sudden so many cars don't have an engine and whatever. But it is this thing where it's like, I don't care that it was a miscalculation, you know? It's like, it's wrong, so there should be a penalty. And I don't want to take Kimi's first win.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with Kimi. This has something to do that a miscalculation.
How the rules are
it's not a good enough excuse, right?
Yes.
Because, for example, and this is not necessarily a miscalculation, but Lando is already on his last set, I think, of power units and all that stuff. Anything after that, if he has to get a new one, he will get a penalty.
Jesus.
So here's the thing. So because this is a new set of regulations and it's the beginning of the season, are you going to be like, well, Lando, you're fine.
Yeah.
You can get one more. Or are you going to go by the rules and be like, well, you're going to get a penalty?
Yeah.
Because you can't just do one thing and then do another, you know? Because I'm sure they didn't want their power unit to break. It was a miscalculation. You know, it's like, it's this thing where it's like, you can't just give them a pass, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And it's also, there's so many people, I'm sure, involved in all of these numbers and calculations, and all the teams make those calculations and they have to make it right. So if it's done incorrectly, even if it was a mistake, it's still your fault. You're professionals. And you, that was, I mean, you didn't follow the rules, and then you have to serve a punishment.
Yeah, it's just, for me, it's like, so the last slide of this is like, the race has learned that the race is this website has learned that the FIA, in response to queries from rivals, did discuss the situation with Mercedes and is satisfied by the explanation that was given. So the explanation is like, sorry, I did it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the things is also with like Ferrari and the Macarena wing, right? Is that they're not sure yet if it will also be within, I think, the regulations and all stuff like that. So they're still testing it and stuff like that. So it's like, well, if you're then not sure, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You know? Then
or if you risk doing it, then you have to pay the consequences if you broke the rules.
Or if you're not sure, then do it in 3/10 instead of 4/10. Because I get you want the 4/10 because it will help you, right?
Yeah.
But if you go more than that, I don't care that you miscalculated. And it's like this thing where I don't want to go into this like conspiracy thing, but it is very much this thing. It's like, why are you getting another pass?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And we're not even anti-Mercedes,
No,
you know?
never. I mean,
Um, you with your McLaren shirt.
oh, yes,
and
yes,
me
yes.
with my Dodgers. No, but we're not anti-Mercedes, right?
No,
We're
and
big
like,
Kimi Antonelli fans.
exactly.
George is fine.
We love Toto.
We love Toto.
We love Susie, which
she-
is by association a little bit
I mean,
Mercedes,
we're,
but
Mercedes were German, right?
yeah.
Or partially German. But it's like this thing. It's like I just hate this thing that
Yeah.
where it's like we're picking and choosing. But you had heard about this then.
I had seen this online. Yes,
Okay.
I forgot to look more into it, but I had seen like clips that people were like, "Ooh, this is there's something wrong with the or Mercedes cheating with the front wing or whatnot." So that's okay. Yes, that one I had seen.
Okay.
Very quickly because we talked about it offline so much, not just the two of us, but we also chatted with one of our friends about it. Speaking of Mercedes. There's special
the wolf.
wolf
Dios mío.
design.
It is the thing. Yeah. We talked about it. So, I mean, I would highly recommend if you haven't seen it, the wolf
Yes.
special livery design that
Yes.
Mercedes did, and they came out with a whole like shirt,
Uh-huh.
and
It was on the front wing. The design was on there.
it
The
was
suits
on-
had like fur kind
well,
of.
I think they were essentially the wolf, right? Because the helmet had the face.
Oh, that's true.
were-
That's
the-
what I'm saying. They had fur.
It was
Yes.
yeah, exactly. It had then this fur print or
Yeah.
whatever, and then the shoes were the feet.
Oh, I forgot about. Oh, yeah. This
Yeah.
makes so much sense now. But it was not. Like so what we were
Just
saying
look
was
goofy.
what we were saying was we were so excited that Mercedes was doing like something special.
Yeah.
They were full in on it.
Yeah.
I mean, with the part on the car, with the suit, with the helmet,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. They had like special shirts, of course, for fans to buy. And they had this very special photo shoot. Toto was in the photo shoot too. It looked
He
like a
looked-
fucking badass.
He looked like he stepped straight out of the Matrix.
Like he was like showing them off or
With-
showing them up like how
with-
this is how you
With
model.
the long coat
the
and
coat,
everything. I was
yes.
like, dude, he's straight out of the Matrix.
Yes.
It's Morpheus, Neo, Trinity, and Toto.
Hilarious. But yeah, it was just we didn't love the design. I understand the inspiration behind
What
it.
is the inspiration against?
Well, I mean, it was like a callback to like a previous design, and I thought it was maybe influenced also by Japanese like older like arts design and stuff like that, or at least that's what I was getting from it. But I just don't love it. I love that they committed to it, and I want them to do it again. So I don't want them to feel disencouraged or discouraged from doing it again. But it's just it was not it. Are you reading something?
Yes, I'm reading this. So the return of the Y3 iconic wolf motive. Y3 for Mercedes AMG Petronas fans. Oh no, F1 team, sorry. Wolf motive goes back to 2006 when Yohei Yamamoto and Adidas released the original F50 Tuned Beast Pack ahead of the World Cup, a now legendary set of football boots built around 4 animals: tiger, dragon, eagle, and wolf. So I don't know if wolf was also from Total Wolf. I don't know why they specifically
Yeah.
took the wolf. I don't know if there's another association with wolf in Germany or Mercedes. I'm not aware of. But yeah, to go back to what you were saying, while I agree, I'm glad that you guys are having fun with
Yes.
this. And I think that's awesome. I think more teams should do it. I
Yes.
love the Godzilla.
Yes, for the
livery
Haas.
that
I
it
like the
is.
Racing Bulls.
The Racing Bulls,
ones was
exactly.
fun. Mhm.
But it just felt very anti. It felt like the antithesis of Mercedes.
Yes.
Like Mercedes is usually so well put together. I know we have
Yeah.
a little bit more sporty spice look going on because
Yes.
of Adidas compared to Tommy Hilfiger.
But it felt like they were having like a tiny identity crisis. Like, who are we? Like, because it didn't.
It's just the wolf just looked like one of those Walmart wolf shirts a little bit.
It just, I don't know, something just didn't click for me.
But if you got it, I love it for you.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, I want them to do it again, or I want them to keep bringing
Yeah, 100%.
different types of liveries. I don't want to discourage any other team
Yeah, I
from
don't
doing
wanna
it.
Yuck your yum.
But it was just not. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't for us.
Yes, exactly.
We weren't the target audience, but that's also why we didn't buy it. And you don't have to. If you
Yes.
don't like it, move on.
Fair,
That's
fair.
what we will be doing to the next drama piece. So this is something happened
Uh-huh.
just this week. So Max Verstappen was doing like, this was not with like F1. This was like part of Red Bull. They did like a press conference or something like that, right? Or
Uh-huh.
like a talk with a journalist, and he comes into this room, and
Oh, okay. I've heard a little bit about it, but I have
exactly.
not seen all of it. Okay.
So Verstappen said, then he goes in and he sees this journalist, and
Uh-huh.
he says, "I'm not speaking before he leaves." And the journalist is like, "You want me to leave?" And
Uh-huh.
then Verstappen's like, "Yeah." And then the journalist asks, "Because of the question I asked you in Abu Dhabi about Spain," and
Uh-huh.
Verstappen said, "Yep, get out." And then the journalist is like, "You're really that upset about it?" And Verstappen said, "Get out. Now we can start." So essentially, there's this British journalist
Uh-huh.
that is a journalist for The Guardian, and
Uh-huh.
I had his name and then I lost it again. But essentially, he asked Max Verstappen
Mm-hmm.
after Abu Dhabi, Lando became champion, and he
Uh-huh.
was like, "Well, now do you regret what happened or what you did in Spain, right?
Mm.
Where we all know that Max Verstappen intentionally crashed into Russell. No
Yeah.
matter how you want to twist and turn it,
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened."
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. This once again starts this big argument. Yeah, well, he could have maybe won the championship if he didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you could have been like, well, McLaren might have started doing team orders prior to that. We don't know what the
Yeah.
outcome would have been, right? Max might have clinched his fifth championship. He might have not.
Yeah.
We don't know,
Yeah.
right? But this did impact it, right?
Yeah.
Because he lost his cool,
Mm-hmm.
and he did something really regrettable. I think this
Mm-hmm.
is also Max's biggest weakness is
Mm-hmm.
his temper.
Yeah.
And this also shows that he's really thin-skinned,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, bro, this happened literally months ago. This
Mm-hmm.
happened 5 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's almost been half a year,
Yeah.
right, since this incident happened. So had you heard about this?
I've heard just a little bit of it that
Mm-hmm.
Max like kicked out a journalist
Mm-hmm.
for asking something or going back to like a previous question, but I didn't get all the information about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so people are now online. Some people are like, well, the journalist shouldn't ask him annoying questions because he already said he didn't want to ask this. And then Max had said originally that he had a really smug grin on his face when he
Uh-huh.
asked that question.
Yeah.
And then the next time he talked about it, he said like he was laughing in his face.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he might have been smug, right? It is, I think, it would be unfair to say that there isn't obviously bias depending on which media you're consuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
British media is obviously biased against Max Verstappen, whereas like the Dutch media will be pro Max,
Yeah.
right? And all this
For
stuff.
the most part. Yeah.
For the most part, right? It's not a blanket
Yes,
statement,
yes.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it is this thing where it's like, where people are like defending him, but I think the big thing is like this happened 5 months ago. Like this is like the journalist was sitting there. He wasn't
Well,
even
was it-
he didn't
I-
even ask him a question that day. He asked him that question in Abu Dhabi.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hear that. But where was this interaction? Where did that happen? Because I had seen, which I'm not sure if that's true, that it happened in the hospitality area in Red Bull. That's where he was.
Correct. It was
Okay.
a Red Bull hospitality in an event or whatever, right?
Oh, okay, event. Okay, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
think event. I don't know exactly, like a press where they're gonna talk and they were gonna ask him questions. But it was an Red Bull situation.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't an official FIA F1 situation.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like obviously we don't know for sure whose side is correct or what exactly. I do think that maybe sometimes it is their job to get something bite-worthy out of the interviews that they get, because that's how you get it on social media. It goes viral. It works in your favor. So asking provocative question can obviously, or when a question elicits like a certain type of reaction, obviously it works in that journalist's favor. But I also think if a driver feels like disrespected by somebody, then they don't have to talk to them. You know, especially if it's a Red Bull specific event, I would imagine that he maybe has some say of like who he wants to talk to or who he wants to answer, because maybe is also a thing of like, oh, they represent my answers the way I say them. or the way they're intended instead of twisting them into whatever they want it to be. I have a feeling that you're on the side of the journalist.
I'm on the side of, so I am anti, like, I mean, we are living in this day and age, right? Also, like, I mean, I feel like this has always been a thing, but this is obviously way more heightened now, where people obviously try to rage bait people,
Yes.
right? And they try to think, but in the end, like, he didn't ask that question this week, right? When he got kicked out, he asked this question 5 months ago, and then you're now 5 months later, you're like, get out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, like I said, I feel like for me at least, there's some information missing, because it also sounds like maybe they've had several incidences where that journalist was maybe disrespectful.
I can't speak on that, but the only thing I can say is that Red Bull does disagree with Max.
Oh, interesting.
So
Maybe it might be a thing of like, oh, it's like he didn't like the question when he got it because he was still pissed about it, and he still feels a type of way about the situation. Maybe there's even a chance where he's like, part of him knows that if he wouldn't have done that, things might have turned out differently at the end. Maybe there's like a little bit of like a guilt, or not guilt, but like regret or something like that. And that maybe he associates now more with that person because they had that very impactful interaction afterwards. I mean, obviously all journalists asked him that question that day, you know, especially after the race.
Exactly.
So I'm sure he doesn't feel a type of way against all of those journalists. So I felt like that interaction with that person was significant in some way for him to want to cut him off.
And I mean, and I think maybe I agree also to a degree with you as well, where it's like, the cameras are always pointing towards the driver, right? So we don't know how the journalist asked this question. I didn't look up and see if this was from like a video conference, if you could at least hear this person's voice, right? Because the Guardian, I don't know, it's like a written thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but they also maybe have a YouTube. Who knows, right?
For sure.
But it like I am very much anti where you want to dictate on what people say, because then it's like, well, this also goes a little bit too much in like, are you trying to censor people, what they're saying about you?
Well,
while I'm anti people twisting stories, right? But it's this thing, it's like when the FIA tells the drivers not to talk about things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to get into this territory where we're forbidding people from like doing maybe also their job in a way, right?
Of course, I understand it, but then I understand the idea of like, well, I don't feel comfortable talking to them, you know?
I just think it is like, I think maybe if this reaction would have been at a different time, right? And if it would have been right then and there, and it's like, bro, I'm not going to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've already said my piece. I'm not going to say it. And we all know that Max is known to be blunt about it.
Yeah.
But it is this odd thing that this happened like 5 months later. Also, your team doesn't necessarily agree with it. There must clearly be some animosity. There is, however, the journalist did say that he still respects Max and stuff like that. Of course, it's easy for him to say this thing now because you're taking the high road. You're getting all the clicks and stuff like that. And in the end, also, it is a little bit this thing where it's like a driver can be baited into saying something or snapping at someone, right? And in the end, no matter if the driver is right or not, the journalist kind of wins, right? It is in situations like this, someone can constantly poke at you, and then one person does the same thing as everyone else, and it's this one time too much, right? And they're gonna get it. But in the end, it's like, it is really unfortunate, right? And yes, the drivers have to deal with this stuff, but then it's also like, bro, your job is to race a car, right? You make $60 million a year. It's kind of like, you have to deal with that.
Yeah, but then it's also like, well, to a certain degree, I have to deal with that, you know?
Yeah, and then I'm not saying like if you're out and about, you have to deal with this stuff like this, right? But if you're going to a conference where people are going to be interviewed, it is unfortunately, it is this thing. And I would appreciate if journalists would maybe go for like actually something interesting or something that is like
well, it's also not, don't ask the questions that everybody else is asking.
Substantial, yeah, because like we also see online when we see, I know this is like a huge reach now, but it's like interviews like Hot Ones and stuff like that, where people are actually being like researched and you're actually asking thoughtful questions, right? and people are gobbling this up. People love hot ones,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, oh, it's not the same five fucking questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on that one hand, it's like, okay, journalists, like, step it up, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it is this thing where it's like, it seems like an overreaction
Yeah.
by Max,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is a little bit unfortunate then also that your team is like, yeah, dude, this wasn't good.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I have some reservations because I feel like some information I'm missing. Either also because I haven't looked it up yet. I don't know if some information is just not out there, but I definitely do still think I agree with you. There's like, oh, why is his team not backing him up? That's also interesting. So I'm like, I can see both sides. I think I'm more sensitive to the area. I don't know. I just
Well, well, his team is not backing him there, as in they're saying like they're not agreeing, I think, with this. But they did also say Red Bull is like, I think, going to the Miami Grand Prix, they want to like kind of smoothen the edges on both sides
Gotcha.
to make sure that there can be like a fruitful relationship
Yeah.
going forward. Because in the end, you don't want there to be animosity, right?
Yes.
You would like there to be a good relationship because in the end, both need each other
yes.
to exist, right?
Yeah.
Like F1 can't race by itself and no one knows about it,
Yeah.
right? But also the journalists obviously need the F1 race. So it would be nice if, I don't know if there's like a code of conduct or something like that, but yeah, this is something that happened.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Do you have anything else F1 drama related?
I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I mean, I did bring up that the drivers talked about that. Okay, the last thing I have, which is a sad statistic.
Oh, Jesus.
Williams now holds the new record for the most consecutive pit stops of 5. Williams now holds a new record for most consecutive pit stops of 5. Yeah.
Wait,
5.
what do you mean consecutive pit stops?
I think they did races with 5 pit stops.
Oh,
So I think Albon has had now 5 pit stops every race or something like that.
gotcha.
So yeah, it's a terrible statistic.
Yeah.
I know that James Vowles has like released a video where he's talking about how they have to do better and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention this one other thing. But some people are really upset with him because like bro, we were doing so well and now it seems like we took
Yeah.
like 700 steps back, right? And it seems like this is constantly this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to give him grace, but it is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because other people with the Mercedes engine are not struggling nearly as much. Like,
Yeah.
look what fucking Alpine is
Yeah.
doing. And you guys are the one team that you guys were 5th in the constructors
Yeah.
last year. And now you guys,
Have 2 points.
We got 2 points, but this was also a little bit luck induced.
Yeah.
At least last weekend.
Yes.
Sorry, at the end of the China Grand Prix, this is the last thing I want to say is there was you know how there are the weighing stations and stuff like this for the cars
Yes.
and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that? So it was not properly covered. So someone was able to film and they released, like, there was pictures on the weights of every car. And then they also saw, like, how overtly, like, the weight difference are between the cars.
Oh,
it's crazy. I
interesting.
mean, I think the Mercedes is the lightest by quite a good margin.
Uh-huh.
But I think the Red Bull is, like, 20 plus kilos over. Yeah,
Jeez.
it is pretty intense, and this was after race, so I'm sure this won't happen again. They will make sure that no one
Yeah.
can see this because you weren't supposed to, but
Uh-huh.
someone from like where they were sitting
With a
were-
Samsung phone, zoom, 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 zoom.
yeah, and I
zoom.
think it was from like the VIP stand, so it wasn't even from
So it's like
yeah
from up down.
exactly right into that. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, that's the last thing I had.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, there was a lot of blah,
No,
blah, blah.
we had a lot of Formula One to talk about today.
Yeah.
But we have some two-wheel racing
Yes.
that we also want.